Hey guys, welcome back. I am so excited for this video. I am participating in my very first Try It Tuesday challenge hosted by Sammy at Unicorn Dust Designs and Indiana Jones. I'll tell you more about them in a minute, so let's jump in. Okay, for my first one, I'm going to recreate this sign made by Sandra over at DIY at the Schwowen's Nest. Now, here is a clip of her channel. Her channel is amazing. If you like farmhouse decor and thrift flips, you definitely have to check out her channel. There is so many great ideas, so much inspiration, and she has a lot of really cool techniques. I'm going to show you one in this video, and I've learned so much from her channel. So please head over and check her out. I will have the link in my description box. So the first thing we'll need is one of these larger pallet signs. Now I'm in Canada and picked mine up at Dollarama, but I have seen them at Walmart and Michael's, something very similar. Now, if you've seen my previous video, you know what I'm doing here. This is a jar of vinegar and steel wool. It is one of my favorite techniques. So it gives the wood a really aged look. So you just brush it on. I like to use a sponge brush, and you want to make sure it's really fully covered with this vinegar mix, and you'll see in a second what it does. I leave it out overnight to dry really thoroughly, and look what you get. It's this really nice grayish brown kind of barn board color. It's beautiful. So we're also going to use one of these little Dollar Tree crates, the oval little sign, and these little garden tools I picked up at Dollarama, which was part of the reason I was so excited to make this sign. I've had those in my stash forever and just didn't know what to do with them. So we're going to take this crate and this little oval plaque. I already had them stained with antiquing wax. I had them set aside for a different project, but decided to use them on this instead. So we're going to give it just a rough coat. That is Folk Art chalk paint in Adirondack, which is just like a white. And we're going to give it just a rough coat because I want it to still look really distressed. I want to see that wood grain and the brown through it. So just give it a quick coat. I did that for both the crate and the oval piece. Now, this is one of Sandra's techniques. It is printing on tissue paper. So basically, you just tape down some tissue paper to a regular piece of paper. You can use just regular printer paper or cardstock, and then you feed it through your printer and just print right on it. It's amazing. Now, I know in her video for this project, she used a Decor of vinyl, but I don't have a Cricut, so I borrowed one of her other techniques and decided to try to print on the tissue paper. So you just cut it out. Try and go as close to the design as you can. And you'll see it's very thin. It's really nice. So now we're going to take our matte Mod Podge. I'm going to give the front of the oval a coat of Mod Podge. And then using your brush that still has Mod Podge on it, you're going to pick up the design with the brush. This is the easiest way to control it. So you just pick it up, center it onto the plaque where you like it, and then you're going to put a coat of Mod Podge over top, going from the inside out. Now it's very thin. You want to make sure that you go lightly so you don't want to rip the tissue paper. So I just worked it from the inside out and then just focused around the edges to make sure it was sealed down. So next we're going to take these they're little thumbtack push pin kind of things I got at Dollar Tree. They are tiny little hooks. So we're going to take those and I just pushed them right into the wood. The wood is pretty soft. They slid in pretty easily. So I just pushed them into the wood. Here I am using my square from Dollar Tree just to make sure they're all even. I did put them about an inch and a half apart. I didn't measure, I just kind of eyeballed it, but you're gonna put 3 of them in. I was just more worried about them being in a straight line. Next, I'm just going to hot glue the little wooden crate to the background of the sign. I hot glued the top little plaque as well. Then I just put in a thin little piece of floral foam. Just see, I tilted it forward so you guys could see. And then using this lavender that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, we're just gonna poke it in there. Now you could use any floral that you have. I know in Sandra's video, she used a bunch of different greens and then some tiny little white flowers, and that looked beautiful as well. So this is just personal preference. You can use whatever you prefer, what you have on hand. Okay, and then for our last step, I took these out to my garage and I drilled a tiny hole through them and then put a piece of twine through and made a little loop so I could hang them up. And here you go, guys. I love this. You can't even tell that that's tissue paper Mod Podged onto that sign. And then here's the whole thing. I think it just turned out beautiful, and I'm so grateful to Sandra for the idea and the inspiration. Okay, let's go number 2. So for this one, I picked this wreath from Breeze Arts. Here is a little clip of her channel. Her channel is amazing too. She is a fairly new channel, but she's growing so fast and her projects are just beautiful. And she's just such a lovely person. She's so fun to watch. So I would love it if you would head over and check out her channel. You won't be disappointed. So for this one, you'll need this pack. It's one of those orb frames from Dollarama, the 3D frame. Welcome sign, one of the metal words, welcome sign. This is a lavender I got from Dollarama, but you could use anything. And some wooden beads from Amazon. So we're going to take the smallest ring out of this one. And then off camera, I just used my wire cutters and trimmed the bottom. And then the little ring at the top there, I bent that up. I'm going to use that too as a little hanger. So these are beads I got from Amazon. I will link them in my description box. So we're going to take 10 of the bigger ones, 5 of the medium, and then 5 of the small. Guys, I'm sorry if you hear some weird noises in the background. My dog is sleeping at my feet again and she snores. And she's really old, so I don't want to wake her up and disturb her. So I promise it's not me making all the grunts. So we're going to take the beads and we're going to just string them onto the wire. So I did the 5 smallest, then the 5 medium, and then we go to the largest one. Now coming up to the end here, I popped some on the other side first, just making sure they go all the way up to that little hanger. It works out perfectly because they stop right at that little hanger. Now I'm going to use hot glue to reattach the wire. And then what I did is I added an extra little glob of hot glue, and I'm going to put one of the beads, and it ends up fitting right over top of that seam. So it really reinforces it. And then I added a little bit of more of hot glue down in the hole to kind of stabilize it. And then glued the next bead to it with hot glue. So you'll see there, it does make it nice and sturdy, and those beads are stuck together, so they're not going to go anywhere. So then I took this little bunch of lavender and broke it all apart. And then using my little wire cutters, I'm going to trim them up shorter. Oh, actually, I couldn't find my wire cutters, so I'm cheating and using like my garden clippers, but they worked. So now we're going to take these lavender stems and we're going to tuck them right into that last bead. It actually works so perfectly. They fit nice and tightly right into that little hole. And then I'm just going to bend it a little bit so that it goes to the shape of the wreath. And then using a little bit of hot glue, I'm just going to secure it to the wreath so it kind of keeps that shape. Okay, next we're going to do the welcome part. So I'm taking my white chalk paint and one of these little dabber brushes, and I'm just going to dab it on to the metal. I totally stole this technique from Bree. This is how Bree did it. And you just dab it right on there. It gives it some really good texture on top of that metal. Kind of almost looks like a little hammered finish when it leaves that texture from dabbing it. So we're just going to dab away. In Bree's video, she totally sang dab, dab, dab. I'm not going to do that. My voice is nowhere near as nice as hers. So we're going to take that off, let it dry. Then I took my little sanding block and I went over and I distressed kind of the edges. I sanded the paint off the edges and a little bit on the top to let some of that metal shine through. And then it was time to attach it to the frame, just using hot glue on each end. I attached it to the wreath. And then I just took a little piece of twine, threaded it through that little hoop on top, tied it a little knot, and made our hanger. Now, guys, I'm going to show you the finished project in a second. I love it. And please head over and check out Bree's channel. I will leave the description or the link in my description below. Now I'd like to take a second and thank our host for today. It's Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs, and her co-host is Indie Annie Jones. Thank you so much, ladies, for putting this challenge together. It has just been so much fun recreating some of our favorite YouTubers' projects. I will have both of their links in my description box below. I would love if you would head over and check out both of their channels. And I hope you're liking my video so far. If you do, please take a second and hit that thumbs up. And I would love if you would hit that subscribe button and stick around and be part of my YouTube family. Now let's go to number 3. So my final one for today comes from Julie's Designs and Signs. Guys, I know I've said it about the other two, but her channel is amazing too. YouTube is just flooded with amazing crafters. Now, she concentrates more on thrift flips. Her channel is a lot of thrift hauls, thrift flips, and she makes the most amazing things. So I will have her link down in my description as well. I really hope you head over and check out her channel. Okay, guys, for this one, you will need a drop cloth. I picked mine up at Dollarama. It was $4, but I know you can get it at any of the hardware stores. I had this wood plaque sign in my stash. I believe I grabbed it at Walmart or possibly Michael's, and then an embroidery hoop. So now this is my first time working with drop cloth, and oh my goodness, I'm so impressed. You get a large piece of fabric, and it's so thick and so nice to work with. This will definitely be one of my new favorites, I think. So we're going to lay the hoop on top, and we're going to cut out a piece of this. Now, to place it back in the embroidery hoop, you only want one part of it with the hem, otherwise your hoop won't close. So I'm cutting the piece a bit longer because we're going to fold it. We're going to make a pocket that goes inside of that hoop. So you want to cut it down a bit so that we can fold it in half. And I'm also going to cut the piece I need for the wooden piece to cover that up. We're going to be making kind of like a pocket on there as well. So I'm just doing the same thing, cutting down the side. Okay, so we're going to start with the wood piece. So we're going to be making a little pocket. So I just put it to the height I wanted it. And then I'm just going to pull these strings off. And they were really in there. I couldn't get that one off. I had to use my scissors after fighting with it for a few minutes and not being able to get it. So I just clipped it off. Now we're just using our hot glue. We're going to You're going to glue both sides, and then the bottom, I'm just going to trim off the excess there. And then the way you glue the bottom is kind of like you're wrapping a present. You want the bottom nice and secure. So I glued the bottom part there and then folded it over just as if I was wrapping a present. That's really the easiest way, I think, to describe it. Just fold over the edges, glue them in place, and then flip up the bottom. I know you won't really see the back, but I wanted it to look as neat as possible. Now I'm just going to attach a hanger. So I grabbed a piece of jute twine. I had it doubled. I wanted it to have a thicker look. And then I used 2 small pieces of popsicle stick just to make it secure. So I put the glue on the popsicle stick and then over top of the twine and then just glued it to the back. Okay, I did that for both sides of the hanger, and then here we go. Flip it back over and we have a nice little pocket on the front. So now we're going to do our embroidery hoop. So you line it up to how big you want your pocket, trying to get it nice and straight, and you put it in between your embroidery hoop and then just tighten up your embroidery hoop. So once you have it in there all nice and straight and at the height you want, you flip it over, and then using hot glue, I'm going to attach the backing on. Now I decided, because there's the 2 layers of fabric, the best way would be to attach one at a time. So I'm going to take my scissors and try and trim off some of that excess at the bottom there. And then taking our little scissors, we're going to go around and trim off all of the excess. And then taking our hot glue again, we're going to do the top layer. Same way, just with the hot glue all the way around and then trimming off the excess again. And here we go, they're all finished. The hoop one I filled with some greenery, and the wooden one I put in some lavender. Now when I saw these on Julie's channel, I knew I had to make them, and I'm so happy with how they turned out. And I'd just like to take a second and say thank you so much for stopping in to watch my video. If you came by the playlist, I really hope that you will hit the subscribe button and stick around. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one.